අයිබෝන් Wake up Sri Lanka නරඹන ඔබ සියලු දෙනාම ඉතාමත් සාදරයෙන් ගෞරවයෙන් පිළිගන්නවා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ අලුත් තරුණ පරම්පරාවක් අලුත් අදහස් අලුත් දැක්මකින් අලුත් ජවයකින් යුතු තරුණ පරම්පරාවක් ගොඩනැගී ඔබේ වැඩසටහන Wake up Sri Lanka. ඉතින් අද අපි කතා කරන්න යන්නේ ඉතාමත් කාලෝචිත මාතෘකාවක්. අපි අද සාකච්ඡාව ඉදිරියට කරගෙන යන්නේ ඉංග්‍රීසි මාධ්‍යයෙන්. ඉතින් අපිත් සමග එකතු වෙනවා තරුණ ක්‍රියාකාරීන් කීප දෙනෙක් මේ මාතෘකාව කතා කරන්න. මම දැම්ම කියන්නේ මොකද්ද මාතෘකාව කියලා. ඉදිරියට මම මාතෘකාව ගැන ඔබට හැඳින්වීමක් කරන්න. ඉතින් අපි බලමු අපි කවුද අද අපිත් සමග එකතු වෙන ජව සම්පන්න තරුණ පිරිස කියලා. ඒ සියලු දෙනාම එකතු කරගෙන පළවෙනි වැඩසටහන නරඹන්න කියලා ඔබ සියලු දෙනාටම ආරාධනා කරනවා. So you all are back with Wake Up Sri Lanka first episode, and our topic for today is post-COVID-19 world and the challenges and the opportunities the world structure would create, and also as Sri Lankans, how to create a win-win situation and how to overcome this challenging period. So let me introduce you our speakers for today's session. Okay, so our first speaker for today's session is Shakil Latif. Shakil, can you please introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shakil Latif. I did my University of London LLB program at the Royal Institute of Colombo. I'm currently sitting for my second year Tenured Laws exam at Sri Lanka Law College, and I'm a program assistant at the Open Government Partnership Department of a civil society organization.
Thank you, Shakil. Our second speaker, Namasha Ratnayaka. Namasha.
Hello everyone, my name is Namasha Ratnayaka. I'm currently a third year undergraduate at the Faculty of Law, University of Colombo. I also studied international development at the Royal Institute of Colombo under University of London program. I am particularly passionate about serving very vulnerable communities and individuals in society, and I'm also very excited to be a part of Wake Up Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Namasha. Our next speaker for today's evening is Aaron Fernando. Aaron is joining from Canberra, Australia. Yeah, Aaron, over to you.
Yeah, hello. I also completed my law degree from University of London as an external degree from Royal Institute of Colombo. I'm currently doing my master's degree course in Juris Doctor, which is a postgraduate degree in law at University of Canberra. And I also want to learn on jurisprudence for my PhD.
Thank you, Aaron. So our last speaker for today's session is Jazla Mohammed. Jazla.
Hi everyone, I'm Jazla. I completed my BSc in International Development from the University of London programs, and I'm currently studying for my graduate entry LLB. I work as a research assistant at a civil society organization, and I consider myself to be an avid advocate of gender equality and women's rights. And I'm extremely excited to be a part of Wake Up Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much, Jazla. All right. So after introducing our speakers for today's session, we are moving to our topic, that is the post-COVID-19 world. So I would like to start with Shakil Latif. Shakil, so we have seen countries have already closed down the airports and harbors. Do you think this pandemic will mark the end of globalization? And also we hear concepts like nationalism, statism, everybody is discussing and everyone is challenging this liberal order. Do you think this will mark the end of globalization, or do you really think this is the next step of globalization?
Given circumstances that have come forward over the last couple of months, I personally think that this is a step towards the end of this era of globalization, because the foundation of globalization at the end of the day is vested in travel and trade. So while the travel bans might only at the moment seem like they are imposed upon the citizens, it also prevents leaders of each country, meeting and, talking. Like it basically curtails international relations, which is the basis of the global community. So Sri Lanka is heavily dependent economically on our exports as well as tourism. So the brunt of the damage will be felt financially through those two avenues. Also, I think it is very important to note that in our day-to-day lives, as Sri Lankans, as children of the current generation, that we are heavily dependent on imports, on products that have been brought into this country from abroad, things that have been provided by China. These are things that have been incorporated in our day-to-day lives as luxuries.
Okay, Shakil,
So
sorry to interrupt you.
yeah.
So we see, like, especially because we are living in Sri Lanka, and we saw how Sri Lanka's government took steps like promoting home agriculture. At one point, I felt like, oh, we are moving towards self-sufficient economy. So what do you think? Because the government has a spotlight right now. That's why I stressed on the fact that concept like statism coming into play. What is your idea about that?
This is the thing, Shashin. While they can, so basically, as like you stated, right now the what is being pushed to the forefront is our local businesses. They have the opportunity now to, basically to take advantage of the fact that all the international competition now has been done away with. But the fact of the matter is the things that were used, as in all these foreign direct investments, branded products on board, technology, things that we are dependent even on now during this quarantine period in order to interact with each other or have our lectures and whatever it is. These are things that set a specific standard in our life. So even in terms of pushing forward, despite the isolation, being able to be connected with the rest of the world, technological and educational progression. Whereas not just in the aspect of education, as we have all, as we are all students of an external program from foreign universities, we understand that Sri Lanka's education system is also heavily dependent on programs that have been provided by foreign universities. So I believe for a period of time there will be a stagnation in terms of whether it's education or day-to-day life, and it's something that we're going to have to come to terms with in order to learn to deal with the pandemic and the burden that it has placed on society as a whole. But I do believe for a long period of time that this will scar the trend in globalization that had pushed the community to build those bridges. So yeah.
Thank you, Shakil. I would like to direct the same question to Aaron. Aaron, do you agree with Shakil, or you take a totally different stance in that question? Do you really think this will mark the end of globalization?
I respectfully disagree with Shakil's views, but however, it can be argued the fact that due to the emergence of Brexit, which restricts freedom of travel, business, and people throughout the EU, as we can see the emergence of nationalism, and it further evident with the pandemic at hand. However, we have to recognize the fact that globalization is, I think, it's not ending, but it's a challenge to all the countries at hand. Living in Australia, I can see that we have taken the 3-step program and allow interstate travel within few months and also towards New Zealand. And how we overcome that is by testing. So if Sri Lanka, which is heavily reliant on globalization, such as for tourism, I think if we improve the testing or improve testing as in the hand of today, that would create a great service to the country and also rely on globalization again. Therefore, I think globalization is not in ending, it's a challenge. We are adapting to technology. Universities will go about, I'm still doing my degree, everyone's still doing a degree. Everyone who wants to, from Sri Lanka, go to study abroad in Canada or Australia, they will get travel ban exceptions within a couple of months. The universities will on go. So globalization will occur. Like countries like Australia and Canada rely on foreign students to build their economy. So globalization has survived since 1920s, since the 2008 financial crisis. All the wars have come about and it has changed and adapted. So I certainly believe that after the 2 years, or maybe more, that post-COVID world, globalization will continue to adapt and evolve. And this will be just a challenge.
Thank you, Aaron. I think that is very detailed. The fact that you pointed out like the technology, because we know not like in Australia. So Sri Lanka, it's a totally different scenario. Not everyone has access to internet and technology. I know currently you all are following online lectures and seminars and everything. So I think in that in that case, we are far back when we compare with other countries like Australia, New Zealand, etc. I would like to move to Namasha Ratnaik. Namasha, I would like to direct a very different question for you, because we know United States of America is heavily criticized by the world, and the fact that they are the most affected country, and also Trump's regime. So all these are questioned. So we saw how China, though there were some allegations against China, we saw how effectively and quickly they overcame the situation. So do you think, Namasha, there will be a hegemonic change? We know America is a hegemony. So do you think really there is a change of hegemonic power?
Shashin, if you really think about it, it's sort of very difficult to predict what will happen in the international system after, because we don't even know when this pandemic will come to an end. What we can do, though, is make certain reasonable and educated guesses. And here I will be trying to make one, but I need to emphasize that this is only an opinion. There can be different opinions. So to start off, before I move on, for purposes of clarity, if I explain what a hegemon or a global leader is, it is someone basically who can get other countries to do what they want. Now, in the international system, for better purposes or for worse purposes, international system, it is mainly based on how much power you have. And it may be based on the threats that you can do to other countries to get people to follow you, or it can simply because you're a country that is attractive and charming, so you want other countries to sort of
basically soft power and hard power instruments. That's what you want to highlight, no? Yes.
Yes, exactly, Sachin. So if you look at the situation of the US, we see that they have all the right cards now, which is the hard part. Now the problem is how they will use these cards in the future. So simply put, they have the ability to actually remain on top as a global leader. The question is if they would do so, and that is one of domestic politics. Now, to briefly say, if you look at its hard power instruments, or particularly its economy, now it's a given that an economic crisis is going to follow after this health crisis, and all of our countries are going to be affected, right? But we can ask one simple question, and that is, what currency does most countries in the world, including Sri Lanka, have the most faith in? And that's inevitably going to be the US dollar, particularly in comparison to the Chinese yuan, which has its own controversies about exchange controls and so on.
Namasha, sorry to disturb you. I want to adapt another question for your very descriptive answer. Namasha, do you really think, because we know that everybody has taken this debate up, that is the dollar mafia, because we know US has been keep on printing money, and we saw statistics recently which is very shocking. So, and countries like China, they are solely depend on manufacturing economy, and countries like USA, where they handle the whole world monetary and fiscal policies. So what is this whole debate? What do you think? Because Sri Lankan rupee has been depreciated from 16%. And when we compare with other countries, because we know everyone is affected from this virus, especially America being the most affected. This is very controversial. What is your opinion on this?
The thing is, Shashin, we should try and compare the US dollar with other currencies in the world. For example, a lot of experts speculate that there is going to be a euro crisis. And the Chinese yuan has its own controversies with exchange controls. So when you keep it in comparison, you see that there is a lot of faith in the US dollar, and they're comparatively rather better off than other countries. Especially, like you pointed out, China depends on their manufacturing sector. And in fact, 40% of their experts are going to 12 countries that are most hard hit by the coronavirus. So it's going to be a massive blow on China's economy as well. And comparatively, US is going to be better off. Just to briefly look at the soft power element to see how attractive US is, once again, a simple question needs to be asked. And that is, where would you see yourself working or studying in, or the most attractive place that you would call? Would it be China, or would it be the US, where they have the top universities in the world, as well as the top companies that you would want to work in? Now, true enough, there is a question of immigration policies and restrictions, and that is exactly why the domestic politics become important. And in that regard, we see that US is going to have an election, a presidential election in November. And if Joe Biden takes Donald Trump's place, he will be having that American face that we are familiar of, that is the American dream and concepts such as rights and accountability. So if all works in favor, US might be able to remain on top.
Namash, also, because we know these concepts like one global society, borderless world. So these are the concepts that US kept on marketing. And though we don't know for a fact that USA has been practicing neo-nationalism since 2010. So, but they are the creators of this whole liberal institution, especially with this COVID-19 crisis. Liberal institutions like WHO, that is World Health Organization and United Nations, because they were not in a position to handle this situation in a successful way. So what do you think will happen to these liberal institutions in future?
I agree with you when you say that they have failed, they have not lived up to their mandate, but we need to be optimistic, right? So when we look at the international community, we see that as a group of people or group of states, we've always, if something is wrong, we haven't thrown it away. We've tried to always fix it. And that is same if you look at the League of Nations, which was there to prevent a war from starting. World War II started, and then you got the United Nations that sort of tried to fix everything that was wrong with the League of Nations. So similarly, this, if anything, shows what is wrong with these organizations, what needs to improve. And if the countries do get together, then, and they will, and we have to be optimistic about it, they will fix all that is wrong and make even better institutions, because even countries that have been against this order, such as China, have benefited from this open world and the rule-based economic and political order these institutions have created. Yeah, so that's.
Thank you very much, Namash. I think that is very detailed and very factful. So I would like to move to Jazla Mohammed, because Jazla is also a development student. She's also a graduate from London School of Economics. So Jazla, do you take a similar stance as Namasha, or do you have a total different view about this question? Do you also think that this will mark the end of American hegemony?
I actually disagree with the stance that Namasha was taking, because I feel like even before the pandemic came into being, there was a hegemonic shift that was in place, where we were moving more towards a world in which China was becoming the global leader and not America. And I feel like, if at all, this pandemic just accelerated that shift, mostly because of how the United States handled their response to this pandemic in comparison to China. If you look at how US handled it, they were delaying in actually taking any sort of precautionary measures, or actually accepting that this was reality. Whereas China managed to quarantine an entire province, and right now is actually providing supplies to countries that were greatly affected, such as Italy.
Sorry to interrupt you. So, do you really think how America reacted to this situation, and the fact that they were claiming that because we know most of these countries are facing the challenge of having a considerable portion of elderly population. So, which is a challenge to the labor force of a country, and already 6.7 million jobs. US has lost 6.7 million jobs. So do you think they itself created this problem, or you think they failed?
I think they have worsened the situation that they're in, because according to a statistic that I read today, US is actually facing its highest employment rate since the Great Depression. And China, in terms of its economy, is already on its way up, whereas sources have predicted, such as Bloomberg, that US is actually going to be facing a double recession. So I don't really see how the US is going to get out of this in a positive manner anytime soon. And I also feel like their global leadership is very dependent on the reputation that they have, such as the soft power that they have, their ability to influence countries. And in this regard, I think China is doing a far better job at that than the United States, because right now the United States is more focused on playing this blame game where they're trying to impose everything on China as opposed to looking inwards for solutions that they can actually look towards to improve the situation domestically. So yeah, I do think that the global leadership is definitely going to be affected because of this pandemic.
Yes, just also we saw like America openly they stated that they are not going to fund WHO in future. So because we know USA is one of the main donors for most of these neoliberal institutions. So with this whole scenario, because lack of funds, we know will definitely reduce their stance and their power. So what will happen to these institutions? What do you think?
So I think that I think that we were anyway heading towards realizing that these institutions were very dependent on the countries that were actually funding them.
Also, Jazla, do you just sorry to interrupt you? Do you think the buyers in this situation, or do you think that the international community has lost faith with these organizations?
Yeah, so I think the international community has definitely lost faith in such organizations, and I think that's because they've also come to realize that these organizations to a large extent are at the mercy of the countries that are funding them. And right now, a classic example would be the fact that right now the WHO's biggest donor is China, and China has refused to give authorization to the WHO to actually investigate on how the coronavirus came into being, given that it originated in China. And even if you look at the UN, in terms of them actually taking action and passing a resolution on the coronavirus, the Security Council was far more, I'd say, took more time in terms of passing one because of the internal politics that was in play between the US and the China. And therefore that delayed their response in terms of actually doing something about this. But I would state the fact that monetary institutions such as the IMF and the World Bank have actually taken some sort of action in terms of actually putting aside their the loans that need to be repaid for a certain period of time. But that was also significantly delayed by 2 months after the pandemic. So I think if these institutions want to stay alive, they need to find a mechanism in which their effectiveness is not dependent on countries, right? But that would also be difficult because then we would be overriding concepts such as sovereignty, which is given a greater importance.
Don't you think countries have a like a clear opportunity to place themselves in the international order, like as you pointed out, sovereignty, which is very important. So because recent past countries were struggling to mark their own voice in the international community. So do you think that in future this situation will change and countries will have a win-win situation for them also to actively participate in the global order?
I think it depends a lot on how countries use the opportunity that has been presented to them right now. And as Shakil rightly pointed out, it's given the opportunity for local producers, domestic production, and domestic opportunities to arise without international competitiveness. And the country that makes the most of that opportunity and comes out successful would be the country that is able to actually make a stand in the new world order that is possibly going to be created because of this pandemic.
Thank you so much, Isla. We have come to the end of our discussion. There were a lot of new ideas, and it was really interesting for me to see how our youth has taken this up and this topic in a more critical manner, how they argued and to establish their stance in this. So I'm very thankful for speakers, Shakil Latif, Jazla Mohammed, Nama Sharatnayaka, and Aaron Fernando. Thank you so much for joining with us with this new initiative where we try to empower the youth and give an opportunity for the youth to speak up and actively participate in the national policy. And as the youth, I believe we have a duty and we have to be prepared to face the new challenges we are going to face with the end of COVID-19. So before ending this discussion, so I would like to ask, because you all are the youth of this country, and you all have cherished many opportunities since your childhood. So I would like to start from Namasha. Namasha, as a youth of this country, I think we all have a duty, because as Sri Lanka, we are going to face a very critical and a crucial time period in future just after this COVID-19. So, Namasha, what is your message for the youth in Sri Lanka to overcome this challenging period?
I think, Shashin, what I personally think is we have, like everyone here, I think, have been personally much more privileged than many others who suffered at the hands of this virus. So this has, if anything, given an opportunity to look at ourselves, look inward, see what's wrong with ourselves, read up, engage in sessions such as this, and sort of not engage in the rat race and look at ourselves. So I think we should use this as an opportunity, this crisis, and sort of enrich ourselves with more knowledge that could help our country.
Thank you, Namasha. Thank you. So I would like to ask Shakil, what are your thoughts? What do you would like to share with Sri Lankan youth?
I think in circumstances like this, knowledge is power, because in terms of educating yourself on the bans that have been imposed, what will be lacking from your life, also educating yourself in terms of how to contract COVID-19, what precautions you need to take in a professional, personal environment. These are all things that now word of mouth could spell the end of you, because you need to know facts. And these are things that you need to be aware of, so that so that false information, misinformation is not inculcated in an environment that you make yourself vulnerable. And also, as opposed to now, we're in circumstances where we have to be self-reliant as a country as well as individuals, so that we need to ensure that that we arm ourselves with the relevant knowledge that is going to enable us to survive and thrive in such an environment.
Thank you, Shakir. So, Aaron, quickly, you are living in Australia, so you might also have a message to give for our fellow Sri Lankans. So, yeah, Aaron.
So, yeah, I'm very fortunate with the privilege I get, the opportunities I come from. But I would like to tell everyone is just during this time, just to be open-minded and also learning to be adapted. Because during these times, we get more biased information, but we need to be open-minded and think of all the solutions and stuff like that. And be more respectful to the mother nature, and also think of ourselves of how we can move forward without telling ourselves we should get back to normal. Think of ourselves in a more new forward way, that we can be respecting others, being more open-minded, and also being adapting to the post-COVID world.
Thank you so much, Aaron. So I would like to move to Jazla. So Jazla, what are your thoughts?
I think this situation has actually given all of us a bit of a clean slate to rethink our position in this whole system, and to also think out of the box in terms of how we can flourish when this pandemic has passed. Because I don't think the world is going to be the same after this. I don't think we can rely on just our degrees anymore to earn us even a substandard income. And I think it's important to look at ways in which you can cater to the needs and the wants of that particular time that would arise after the coronavirus has actually passed. So it's a good time for us to kind of like look at what our skills are, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and how we can make the most of that and adapt to the world that is going to come.
Thank you, Jazla. Okay, so a lot of positive thoughts. I think we can learn a lot of things from what you all just shared with the last couple of minutes. So as Sri Lankans, not only as Sri Lankans, the world is facing this crisis. So I think it is very important for us to be, as everyone mentioned, open-minded and proactive, because we know there is no doubt that Sri Lankan youth is very talented and very innovative, full of fresh ideas. And we saw people coming with novelties, technology. Those are positives that we can get from this whole COVID-19 situation. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed our session and you all got some new ideas and you all learn something. So there's a kind request. Tune in to our Instagram page, Wake Up Sri Lanka, and our Facebook page, Wake Up Sri Lanka. We'll be posting many interesting videos and interesting content for you all to go through. And especially this platform is for you guys. This is open for everyone. So if you are passionate, because in future we'll be publishing our topics beforehand, so you all can join us. We know you all are talented, and we would love to have new speakers, new faces, and you can share your ideas and thoughts with us. So in this journey to build a very proactive Sri Lankan youth to face this post-COVID-19 situation by restructuring our whole system, and also coming up with new ideas and new thoughts, and uniting as a country to taking our religious, cultural, and ethnic, whatever the identities and barriers, we should unite as one, and especially as a youth, there is a big responsibility lying on our shoulders. So yeah, so excited to meet again with a new episode of Wake Up Sri Lanka. So hope you guys stay at home safely. Thank you so much.